Hello there, YouTube. It's your Bobby3, back with another kicking graphic novel review. And today is an extra weird one. That's right, we're still doing our weird DC marathon, where I'm reviewing a lot of my favorite weird books from DC. That includes weird characters like the Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing, but also weird writers like Grant Morrison. They write super weird books. And this is one of their weird books, Flex Mentallo, Man of Muscle Mystery. He's a character I was introduced to through DC's Young Animal imprint, which is just all weird and very experimental. He was on that Doom Patrol team, but this book is solo. Normally I start these by reading the back of the book, but oddly enough, there isn't a traditional back of the book for this. It just says, "You, buy this comic now, or the Earth is doomed." And then it has a bunch of, like, little reviews from, like, Pop Image and comic book resources and stuff on the back. It doesn't have, like, the standard read-up of what the book is about. But Flex Mentallo, Man of Muscle Mystery, the deluxe edition from DC's Vertigo imprint, which is, of course, where it was printed. It's by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. You know, they've worked together plenty in the past. It's a very weird book, as I'm sure you'd expect. And it does have a brief history of Flex Mentallo and stuff in the front, and some very weird cover arts that are kind of vintagey looking. Anyway, it starts off with a page that looks almost Alan Moore-ish with its 9-panel layout. There's a character throwing bombs around, and then there's a guy cooking eggs for Flex Mentallo, and there's a bomb, but it's like a weird cartoony bomb, like the black one with the big fuse, that just says bomb written across it in red letters, but it's a dud. And it turns out there's a serial bomber, but all their bombs are duds. And there's also a pop star who's committing suicide, and he's dying. But it seems like his death is warping reality. It's a very confusing book. Like, this pop star is obsessed with comic books. And he made some of his own. And it seems like Flex Mentallo is actually from his comics. This man's comic book characters are coming to life. And this is a world that used to have superheroes, but Flex Mentallo seems to be the only superhero left. Where are the superheroes? Why did they leave? What's going on? And let me tell you. Well, I'll try to tell you, but it's almost impossible to explain. And it's going to have a lot of spoilers. You know, just like, is it aliens? Is it... what's going on? It turns out a previous reality was being destroyed. Once again, this is all huge spoilers. Like, I can't begin to talk about this book without spoiling it. That's how insane and intertwined and whatnot it is. So if you have any interest at all of reading this, and you should read it, it is an incredibly underrated book. Longtime comic readers and comic fans especially will appreciate it, because you see, this book itself is actually kind of a comic book history lesson in a way. Not of specific comics like Superman or Spider-Man or anything, but just of as what comics are. It's kind of a meta commentary about how comic books have affected us in the real world, and about how the real world itself affects comic books, which is true. That does happen. Comics change based on what's going on in the real world, and the real world has been affected by comic book stories just like it's been affected by any kind of fiction. You know, stories are powerful things, whether they be true or not. But a lot of that meta-narration is in the dialogue of this dying pop star, who kind of gives a nice little history lesson, but also it there's this like weird sexual part of the book where the pop star is talking about how he kind of got his first sexual kicks from comics. I mean, comics are full of like, ooh, big buff dudes taking their shirts off, ooh, and, you know, super thin ladies with proportions that couldn't possibly exist, and everyone's wearing just skin tight, revealing clothing. So there is this very weird sexually charged part, but I get what it was trying to say. And there are, I'm sure, a lot of people that got some of their first sexual kicks from comic books. That makes so much sense to me. But once again, now we're going to get into that big spoiler territory. So, where did the superheroes go? Why, they went into fiction, of course. Duh. So they were superheroes. They're almost very like Silver Agey superheroes. There's a lot of Silver Age feel in a lot of this. And I know that Morrison, they're a very big Silver Age fan because All-Star Superman, one of the greatest comics ever written. I reviewed it forever ago. It's an amazing book. If you haven't read it, do yourself a favor and read All-Star Superman, one of the greatest comics ever. But it's kind of a love letter to Silver Age Superman. And there is a lot of Silver Agey stuff in here. But also, these superheroes that kind of lived in this Silver Agey dimension, their dimension was dying. And so instead of hopping to another dimension or whatever, they hopped into fiction. They made themselves fictional. It's very difficult for me to explain. Morrison is known for their very confusing stories, but Morrison also writes consistently unique and consistently great stories, even if they are super confusing. In previous reviews, I've talked about Final Crisis, and I've also reviewed Final Crisis, which is a super confusing book. To this day, I do not fully understand it. A lot of stuff in it is just conjecture by fans. Like a lot of the stuff that seems to be the official explanation is technically just fan-splanation. Fan explanation, that is. But it's still such a good story that people keep coming back to it anyway, even though we don't understand it. Now that's good writing, somehow. But this book kind of ends with the heroes becoming more than just stories, becoming real again, and that makes sense. Like, the heroes in these comics are often inspired by real people and real events, which become fiction, and then that fiction goes on to inspire the heroes of the future and change the real world. That's what this book is about. It's about comic history, but also comic culture, how it affects us and how we affect it. It's a magnificent book. If you love comics, especially superhero comics, this is a book you cannot afford to miss. It's really, truly incredible. A lot of people, I feel like, are going to see this on the shelf and be like, a book about like a 1930s looking strong man? Who cares about that? I'm going to get a Batman book. I mean, you can always get a Batman book whenever. They're never going to stop Batman, you know? But Flex Mentallo, Man of Muscle Mystery, the deluxe edition, is a book you cannot afford to skip out on. It's truly an amazing and underrated read. 100% a must-read, a hidden gem of comic fiction. And I think everyone should read it. Well, that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll be seeing you all next time when we do more Weird DC. Bye for now.